I don't think we're quite as funny
Right.
as Zach Braff,
No.
and I can't remember his name, unfortunately. But
Donald Faison, man.
I knew it was Donald. Couldn't remember what the surname was.
Yeah. Right, here we go then. Hello everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Figure Fourcast with, unfortunately, not Zach Braff and Donald Faison, as we are not as funny as them, but me, Sam Gardner, and Damien Cross. How are you, Damien?
I'm pretty good. I guess I need to include that earlier conversation now in this episode, but I wasn't expecting you to say that, but I'm kind of happy you did. Yeah, I'm pretty good. It's been quite a buzzing week. For any of our listeners who are from England, World Cup fever, European Cup fever, the Euro 2020 has been pretty dominant in our lives at the minute. So yeah, kind of riding that wave of excitement. I'm sure a lot of people are as well.
Exactly, it is coming home. Is it coming home? It could come home. It might come home. I hope it comes home.
Depending on when this goes live and when people are listening, it may have already come home. So
Yes, and let's not speak about the alternative, because we don't want it to go to Rome. We don't want football's not going Rome. Football's coming home. But yeah, the European Championships are on, and that sort of took Europe by storm, especially our lives. So wrestling's took a bit of it's gone a little bit on the back burner this week. I'm sure for our American viewers, unless you're really, really interested in football or soccer, yeah, I'm sure you're still interested in wrestling. So we are going to sort of tie it in a little bit and go for the champions theme, if you want, seeing as it is the European Championships, and talk a little bit about that. But first, we're going to start off with the news from this week. There's been a couple of big stories, both good and bad, and I guess the biggest one, sort of wrestling related but crossed into the real world, is unfortunately Jimmy Uso getting done for another DUI. I think it's the third one in like 10 years or something. Not good stuff.
no, I didn't really want to talk about it too much, but I do know that a couple of people that listen don't follow the news around wrestling on Twitter and stuff, and I don't imagine WWE are going to want to draw attention to this immediately. Obviously, SmackDown hasn't aired when we were recording, so we don't know what the fallout's going to be yet, but just kind of wanted to mention it, so if anyone knows that there is a good chance that there's going to be some impact on his current storyline. It's, as Sam said, this is the third one he's had. I think it's the fourth time he's been arrested, but only 3 of them were related to this. But it's not good, and there has been some rumours about WWE being very unhappy with this, because obviously driving while drunk is a very serious thing. You potentially putting someone's life on the line when you do that. So
Yeah.
If there is any development with the story, we'll talk about it then. But just wanted to let people know if they had missed any of that news. But
Yeah, that's
hopefully,
it.
one way or the other, you can get some help as well. So
Exactly. Don't want to dwell on it too much because we don't know the guy's situation, what leads into this thing. So hopefully he gets the help he needs and everything turns out good. But let's move on to some more wrestling-based things. And on last week's Friday Night SmackDown, we saw the return of Zelina Vega, who was entered into the Money in the Bank ladder match. She had a match with Liv Morgan, and I have to say it was quite an underwhelming return for me. What are your thoughts?
It's the most hyped but also unhyped return I think I've ever seen. Like it's such a big thing, but it's also not a big thing, because Zelina Vega is a great character in WWE, as in her management role, obviously, of Andrade, as well as who else was he in a team? He was in a team with a couple of people.
Angel Garza, Austin Theory.
But her
The
wrestling
Vega Boys.
her wrestling career was never really the focal point of a lot of what we saw of her on the main roster. She did play a character in the Page movie. She plays AJ Lee, weirdly.
She does. Yeah.
It's a very weird moment in that movie if you're a wrestling fan that you wouldn't quite get if you weren't but watching the movie. Like, why did they get another...
It is a bit strange, isn't it?
I don't know why they felt the need to do that, but
there was a few different sort of roles in that film that were a bit strange, because like Vince Vaughn was the head of the performance centre and stuff, and you're just like, oh, this is a bit weird. And then I think there was a few NXT UK stars in sort of the tryouts and stuff, and you're like, oh, I recognise that face.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, it's Fighting With My Family, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's it. Florence Pugh is the star that plays Paige, and of course is dating someone much funnier than us that we've already mentioned, Zach Braff.
Oh yeah, it all ties together.
There you go. It's all linking back, smooth like butter, as that Korean K-pop band would say. Anyway, moving on swiftly.
Yeah, so she's returned. Selena Vega was returned, and I was quite interested. I was like, oh, it's a big deal, because obviously she left with all of the kind of controversy around WWE wanting people not to be doing things outside of WWE, like Twitch and stuff like that, and now she's come back, and that was quite a big deal. And it really ties into the next debut, which was for AEW. The man formerly known as Aleister Black debuted as... I haven't actually watched it, but I've only seen the stuff on Twitter. But Sam, have you watched it? Did you actually get the pronunciation of his name correct for me?
Malachi Black is that. He sort of debuted, did the whatever the Black Mass is called now, to Arn Anderson, and then eventually hit one on Cody. And Excalibur said, oh, that's the man that I wrestled 15 years ago in Germany, Dusseldorf, Germany, Tommy End, but that's not Tommy End, that's Malachi Black. So it was a pretty cool debut. I haven't actually watched the show yet, because it only went out last night, sort of middle of the last night here in the UK, but I'll watch it tomorrow after we finish work. And I'm looking forward to it. It was, of course, AEW's return to touring, and there's a full arena there, so it seemed like a big sort of atmosphere there.
Yeah,
which is always good to see.
A bit of a strange situation with it though, because obviously he's only left quite recently. Normally there's a 90-day no-compete clause, but apparently NXT superstars only have a 30-day no-compete clause, and no one had updated his contract when he moved to the main roster.
That's just so hilarious, isn't it? You can just... oh my gosh. Apparently WWE isn't good with their admin. Hilarious. You can just imagine Aleister Black just sitting there like, are they going to update my contract so I've got the 90 days? Oh, I'm not going to say anything just in case, because you must realise, unless you're sort of a Roman Reigns or a John Cena there, it must always be in the back of your mind that that future endeavours email is going to come at some point. So if you're Aleister Black there and you think, they haven't updated my no compete from 30 days to 90 days, I'm absolutely not going to tell them. So I'm going to shove it up their ass when things turn around. So it's just so hilarious. It's so funny, and I'm really looking forward to see what he does on AEW.
Yeah. The continued carrying on the surname thing, I feel like it was a good choice. Like, kind of get the impression that he's going to be playing a very similar style of character, and they want to be like, remember what he was doing before? Well, we're going to do it better. Kind of wink and a nod, which, from what I've seen of AEW, that is the place to go and do that. So, and yeah, if it's their first show back touring, you've got a live crowd, dropping a debut like that is a great way to start off. I'm hoping to get a chance to watch the episode myself over the weekend. There is a lot for me this weekend, but I'm hoping to get a good chance to watch that. Still 2 weeks before WWE, I think, start their touring again.
Sounds about right.
So AEW got there first, which WWE is going to be annoyed about. You know they're going to be gutted that
yeah.
they didn't get the first crowd. But
I'll tell you what, I did, just going all the way back to Zelina Vega, watching that when Sonya Deville comes down and says, "Oh yeah, I've got a very special person coming into the match," and she just announces Zelina Vega in the match. Literally in the segment, after Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn like literally put each other through hell, someone's just been inserted into the match without doing anything. Imagine if that was sort of real life, and how those two that have just like literally battered each other to a pulp would feel. Oh, but she's just gone in and she hasn't done anything. Unbelievable, Cammy. Unbelievable.
I'm hoping it's all going to pay off with the Liv Morgan storyline. I feel like if it doesn't, what was the point of it all? Obviously,
gosh.
But I thought it was going to be somebody
in 2 minutes, didn't she? A roll up in 2 minutes. What the hell's going on?
Like I said, Zelina Vega was never known for her wrestling on the main roster. It was always her mic work and her role as a manager. So I'd probably expect to see some more of that in the future. But who does she manage? There's no Andrade anymore.
I don't think she's going to be a manager. Surely she has to be a wrestler because they've got like 3 people on that women's roster on SmackDown, which is signified the most by another Bayley and Bianca Belair match, because there's literally no one else to challenge for the title at the minute. That's another story for another day.
As much as I dislike seeing the same matches over and over again, I am pretty interested in seeing that I Quit match.
Yeah, I've never complained seeing a match between them, but it's just sort of signifies, like, it highlights the lack of depth in that division.
Oh yeah, it definitely highlights a problem, but I feel like in this one instance I'm willing to look past it, because the prospect of an I Quit match between those two is something I'm pretty interested in seeing. I don't know if we've seen a women's I Quit match in WWE.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
We've seen last women standing matches, I think. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing one of them, but I don't think we've seen a women's I Quit match. I could be wrong, but nothing is jumping out at me. So it'll be a first, and hopefully they can show that it can be good. Like, there's been some interesting I Quit matches in the past, but hopefully Bayley and Bianca can put on a hell of a show with that match. Yeah,
absolutely. Just jumping back over to AEW, I'm not sure if you saw it today, but a fan tried to get in the ring during the MJF and Chris Jericho segment, and Chris Jericho leathered him a couple of punches. Like, this big fat dude jumped sort of up onto the ramp and was kind of like taunting in a way, or posing, and security sort of kind of got him. And Chris Jericho laid in a couple of punches on him, which is always good to see. But yeah, it's not good for the first show back in a year and a half that someone has broken security. They built it into the segment quite well. Like, MJF taunted the crowd and said, "Oh, some other fat bastard wants to try and get up here and see what I'm made of and stuff." So, the two guys dealt with it pretty well, but it's a little bit worrying that it's literally the first show back and that's happened.
I always find it weird when people want to do that. There's been a few cases over the years of fans trying to get physical with the wrestlers. It's like, that seems like such a stupid thing to do. Like, I know WWE and AEW, I know like professional wrestling isn't real, but they're still putting their bodies on lines. They're still getting hurt for entertainment. Like, they may not be punching each other in the face like MMA fighters, but behind them, like, I wouldn't want to fight most wrestlers. I mean, I'm not exactly built like someone who would want to fight anyone, but if I had to list it, like, wrestlers would be pretty near the top of the list of people not to fight. Like,
yeah, there's that famous incident with the NWO all those years back. A fan got in the ring with them. I think Scott Hall and one other was absolutely leathering him, and then Kevin Nash just pushed him over the top rope and got him out of there. Otherwise, I don't think that guy would be alive to tell the story. And when I went to in 2015, when NXT came to the UK, I was up in Sheffield watching it, and it was FTR, the Revival back then against I want to say American Alpha in a match, and I saw this fan run all the way across this the seated seats is what I was about to say, the floor level seats, and jump over the rail, and he got into the ring, and Dax Harwood, or whatever he's called back in WWE, got him in a headlock, and they both just absolutely pelted him. I'm like, fucking hell, that guy's regretting his life decisions now. But if you jump into their house, they're gonna hit you, man. It's not a good decision to make.
No, they always seem to pick wrestlers who are like known for having like a legit, not necessarily legitimate like fighting career, but being legitimately tough guys. Like Chris Jericho is a man who squared up to Brock Lesnar backstage. Like that takes some pretty big balls to do that. Like I just on that story alone, I wouldn't want to fight Chris Jericho because he is just not going to be scared. So why would a fan want to do like I was going to say in quotes, because I don't think you really are a fan if you're going to try and do something that stupid, but
no. Yeah, idiots are always going to be idiots. But I think that's a very wise piece of advice there. Very philosophical. Just like, if the matches are good, the show will be good.
You never know that guy.
Cross 2021 et al. Yes. But I think that's the roundup of the news for this week. Unless you can think of anything juicy that I've missed.
No, I think that's all of the biggest news stories, and a little bit of random chatter in there as well.
Yeah, so now we're going to talk about champions in WWE and who sort of are our favourite champions, the best reigns that we've seen over the last little while, and it's a very tenuous, is that a real word? Tenuous link into the European Championships, which are on at the moment. So this was your idea, Damien, so run wild, man, go for it.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure where the conversation was going, but I thought it was a good topic as we are quite focused on champions at the minute. So I want to start with the most obvious one. Is at the current moment, I think it's not going to be too much argument to say that Roman Reigns is the best champion that WWE has. There may be some argument for something down on NXT. Haven't been watching it in a while, but I think it's pretty clear that how they've been booking Roman Reigns and that story has got him as the best champion. He's held it for quite a long time now. Was it SummerSlam?
Year, isn't it? Yeah,
SummerSlam
exactly.
last year, I think he won it, and has held it quite dominantly throughout that entire time. There's a few moments where we thought he might lose it, but ultimately, for the betterment of the story, he's retained and kept going. So I just wanted to mention that one because I don't really think there's too much we can talk about in terms of Roman Reigns as a champion. He's been one of the best things on WWE for the best part of a year, and I thought would start with the highest one. But I think the more interesting one is, out of the current champions, and I am going to purposefully exclude the 24/7 title from this question, who do you think has been the worst champion at the minute?
The worst champion. Okay.
Give you a minute.
Well, let's think.
We can cut out your thinking time.
Well, I'll talk and think. So, who are the champions that we've got? We've got Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns, Apollo Crews, Sheamus.
Yeah.
I'm not going to count the tag teams because I don't think it's the tag team's fault. It's the booking that they're put in. So we've got those four.
For the men.
And then there's obviously the women as well. So you've got Bianca, and I think I've just hit my the winner. Rhea Ripley is the Raw Women's Champion. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. Well done, Rhea. You've actually won something. What can you say, man? Like, it links into Raw this week. The story's so bad. It is so bad. She doesn't know who she is. Her character sucks. The Charlotte Flair dynamic. It's so easy to book. It honestly is so easy to book. Last year, I lost you at WrestleMania. It sent my career into a spiral, but now I'm back for redemption. Not this like, oh, what's happened to Charlotte? Is she injured? And then Rhea Ripley pretending to be injured. Bullshit that's happening. It's terrible booking. She doesn't feel like a champion, and any sort of buzz that she had coming into the main roster has soon disappeared, and she's just another goober that's on that Raw division, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's my worst champion. I don't think you can pick anyone else, really.
No, that's a pretty fair pick. The story with Charlotte has gone on far too long for a start, and there's not much. Yeah, you kind of put it perfectly. Like, she should have felt so big when she won the title, and has not really done anything.
Yeah.
I do feel that at the minute Charlotte Flair could feel as big of a match without a title as a championship match. Like, if you could build a match around someone versus Charlotte Flair without there being a title in it, so the entire feud didn't really need to happen in the first place. It is one of those things where I kind of hope that this was just we're holding off until we got the crowds back, but
I think that's what everyone's clinging on to at the minute, aren't they?
But
until the crowds get back and it's just as bad.
Yeah, and then what's the next thing? What are WWE going to be waiting for next? But yeah, unfortunately, I think Rhea Ripley is the easier answer here. If it wasn't for the fact that the matches have actually been really good, I would say that Bianca Belair isn't too far behind on that one, just because
I'd agree.
The story hasn't been very good. It's just so happens that her matches have actually been quite entertaining each time, and that has kind of saved her title reign somewhat. But neither women have been booked particularly well since winning the titles at Mania.
If I'm honest, I actually think that none of the champions on WWE are booked very well at all. None of them actually feel like champions to me at all, apart from Roman Reigns. Like, all of the reigns seem to be underwhelming, and it's just guff. It's really guff. They don't know how to book champions and make them feel dominant.
No, and it wasn't really something I was planning. I was kind of gonna dive into with this, but I think there was something from Vince Russo. I think it was him who was talking about it the other week, was saying that WWE and specifically Vince McMahon don't want to create megastars anymore. Like, in his opinion, there'll never be another Rock, Austin, Hogan, or Cena because WWE don't want someone bigger than they are. But I don't think you can avoid that. Like, he's not on the same level as those four, but arguably Roman Reigns is bigger than WWE right now. Like,
yeah.
If you think of his star power, like, if he left and went to AEW, people would tune in to see Roman Reigns. Like, people who wouldn't tune into AEW normally would be like, well, I want to see what Roman Reigns is going to do. If he went and starred in a movie, there are some people who would tune in to see that movie because he's in it. But if WWE just made a movie, I don't think there'd be much hype for it. Like, oh, it's a WWE movie? It's going to be shit. Like, I think
Marine 18.
I don't know if Sam's still there. He just cut off for me. So, Sam, you're back. Mini power cut. Hopefully we're able to recover all the audio. So if there is a bit of a sound quality difference, that'll be why. But hopefully we can carry on without any other issues.
Blame the National Grid, not me. I was actually having a conversation yesterday about National Grid, as exciting as that sounds. Apparently, well, during the half-time in the England match yesterday, Sam Matterface, the commentator, said, "Don't everyone put their kettles on at once." And I said to Shannon, "Oh, that's a weird thing to say." She was like, "Actually, at school we learned about power surges and stuff, and apparently the highest power surges there are in the UK is just after EastEnders finishes, where all of the saddos that watches EastEnders go and put the kettle on all at the same time. So I have to make sure the amount of energy goes through. So maybe EastEnders just finished. I don't know. I don't know what time EastEnders is on.
I have heard a lot of stories about the National Grid having to prepare for breaks in TV programs, especially when a lot of people are going to be watching something. They have to prepare for that sudden drain as everyone goes and puts the kettle on. How true that is?
That's crazy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. My degree was in chemistry, not physics. I don't understand electrical engineering and well enough to say if that's true or not, but it's believable.
I'll believe it. I'll believe anything. I don't care. So, anyway, where were we? Talking about wrestling. I think we were talking about the Marine 19 or something.
Yeah, we were talking about champions and how WWE doesn't want to book someone to be bigger than they are, despite the fact that that is an inevitable thing with any top star.
Yeah.
So we've kind of talked about the best and worst champions at the minute. I think it's pretty obvious ones, but who's the worst WWE or World Heavyweight Champion, but in WWE? We're not going to go into WCW. It's not really something I've ever watched. But who's the best top champion that you remember watching? Because there were some big names that people like. One of the ones that gets shouted out a lot is Kevin Nash, because there was nothing for him to kind of feud with, and that was a really bad time for the champion. But that was kind of before both of us were watching, so your perspective on it will be quite interesting.
The immediate one that comes to mind, that in recent memory, is Jinder Mahal, when he was the WWE champion. Now, all power to him. He came back in incredible shape and was rewarded for that. However, it was an incredibly boring title run. I actually thought that he was quite a good heel in some respects, but he's just so average in the ring. Like, he doesn't do anything special. Personally, it's just my personal taste. I just find him a little bit boring. So that was a title run that I didn't particularly enjoy. I'm struggling to think of actually, like, for some reason my mind just can't stretch back that far. I can barely think about what I had for dinner, let alone that far. Who are you thinking is sort of your worst main champions?
I'll give you a moment to think about your favourite while I'm going.
Okay.
I'm going to pick a different one because Jinder Mahal was is an easy target for this question, I feel.
He is. Poor Jinder.
It was an experiment. Jinder. It was an experiment that didn't really work for WWE. I'm going to pick a different wrestler, and that is Alberto Del Rio, and I think it was his second title reign. The exact specifics is not really there, but it was his last title reign in the WWE, whichever number it was. And by that point, I was just not interested in his gimmick or any. There was no buzz for a minute, and I just couldn't get interested. And at that time, it was a point when I was kind of on the fringes of watching WWE anyway, and I genuinely almost stopped watching WWE because of that. And there's nothing specifically against Alberto Del Rio. He's got a lot of critics, and for a lot of stuff it is deserved, but there was just nothing
statement.
There was just nothing in that title reign that was of any interest to me as a fan when I was watching it. I think I've grown a little bit now where I can kind of find enjoyment in certain things, but at that time, no, nothing. I didn't have anything.
Yeah, I completely agree. I never got the hype about Alberto Del Rio and why he was so high on the card. And knowing now what we know about him, he can go fuck himself. Absolute bellend. So,
So,
yeah.
I try and be diplomatic and not say horrible things about people, and you're just like, nah, fuck him.
Well, he's a horrible, horrible man, so he deserves anything and everything that he gets. So
I'm too nice. That's my problem.
If I could use stronger language on a podcast, I would. But
I can bleep it out.
can't. Yeah. You can't. No, I've got to edit that. Yeah. Let's think about our top champions then, our favourite champions. And I'm just thinking, out of recent memory, when I was younger, I loved John Cena. I really loved John Cena when he first won it off JBL, when he was sort of transitioning from Doctor of Thugonomics to the John Cena that we all know. I love that. But more recently, I have to say, when Seth Rollins broke away from the Shield and he won the Money in the Bank, it was short-lived because he got injured on a UK tour just before I was about to see him in Manchester, when I absolutely loved him. But that's not the story. I love that version of Seth Rollins when he was actually in the Authority and he was sort of like a smarmy heel. I love that. And another champion that I loved was actually down in NXT. It was Finn Balor when he was NXT champion the initial time round. There's so many good matches. The main one that stands out for me was TakeOver London against Samoa Joe, but you can literally just reel off all of the matches, and that was when NXT was really getting put on the map. So I look back on those days very fondly. So What are you thinking?
There's so many top champions. Obviously, it is the position that is filled by the top babyface or top heel at any given time. So there's so many good ones to look back on. There's the obvious ones: Punk, Bryan, Cena.
Yeah.
I want to pick one that's a little bit unobvious, something that I really enjoyed as a champion, and it was by no means the best. I just really enjoyed it, and I really wish we could have got a better title run at it. But that was Dolph Ziggler.
Okay.
His run when he had Big E as his muscle and AJ Lee as his missus. I was trying to think of a funny way of saying it.
I was waiting for how you were going to say it.
That whole run, I loved that character. Even though it was a heel, it was entertaining. And I think Dolph Ziggler at times has been has had some of the best stuff WWE have. He's not been there all the time. Obviously, the whole thing with him dropping was it the US title? He relinquished and left, and he came back into the Royal Rumble just to get eliminated after 5 minutes. It was like, well, what the hell was the point?
Yeah.
But yeah, that title reign with Big E Langston at the time, really good time, I think, for me watching it. That's probably the one I want to pick because it's unobvious. Like, it would be easy to say CM Punk in the Summer of Punk or Daniel Bryan when he beat.
Yeah.
They're so obvious that they're almost not worth mentioning. But
so you haven't picked one of the Roman Reigns early title runs, or when Triple H won it in that Royal Rumble? In those dark days of the mid-2010s.
Those were such dark days. I was only actually watching pay-per-views at the time because I was at uni at that point, I think, and we didn't have Sky to watch any of the weekly shows. I was only watching the pay-per-views, and although WWE do a good job of letting you know what's happening on the weekly shows when you watch a pay-per-view, so if you have missed them all, you can still follow. It was still a little confusing when you tune in to see what the matches were, because that was the most interesting point about that time for me, was turning on a pay-per-view and being like,
what the fuck's going on here?
Why is Roman Reigns fighting Sheamus? Like, what?
Brilliant, yeah. Well, I think this all links in quite well to the final news story from this week. Roman Reigns did an interview with some wrestling outlets this week. I can't quite remember who it was, so apologies to whoever that is. If you listen, I'm sure you do, and you're a loyal follower of the Figure Forecast. However, Roman Reigns said that he is the best wrestler in the world, which led me to think, who is the best wrestler in the world? And it's hotly debated by many a wrestling fan worldwide. And I'm interested to know who you think is the best wrestler in the world currently.
So my answer is obviously going to be a little skewed by the fact that I pretty much exclusively watch WWE.
Yeah.
And that is obviously going to restrict my knowledge on some of the fantastic wrestlers they have over at AEW and places like Impact.
Maybe we should go, who's your favourite as well as who you think the best is, if you want. So,
well, I'm going to pick two names of one that I watch. So one from WWE, because I know that. And I'm also going to pick someone that I think objectively is. And I'm basing it on three things, which I think it's safe to assume every wrestler needs to have: good mic work, good ring work, and a good character.
Yep, that's fair.
Now, the obvious one is Kenny Omega.
Yep.
From the very small amount of stuff I've seen of him, has an amazing character, and he's got this kind of collecting all the championships gimmick at the moment. Great, love that. That's a very classic, like
it's old school, isn't it?
Territories kind of story, and they love to throw that in WWE video games. I can't say WWE today.
Always good for a WWE wrestling podcast. Can't say it.
I can't get the syllables out. So that's a great thing for him to have at the minute. His ring work has always been great. I've seen highlights from his matches all over the place. They're always good. And although I haven't seen many of his promos, best I can tell, he's not really lacking in that department either. So I think it's safe to assume he's the best, at least best English speaking wrestler in the world. I wouldn't know a good Japanese promo. If you showed me the best one ever, I would have no idea because I don't speak Japanese.
Yeah.
So I can't really comment on that.
I think both of our knowledge of just Japanese wrestling as a whole is somewhat lacking. So if we're missing any sort of obvious people over there, apologies for that.
They have some amazing wrestlers, but it's finding the time and watching something in a language you don't speak is very confusing. I think they'd probably have subtitles or dubbed versions or English commentators, but it is a little confusing when it's not a language you speak. I've played video games in Japanese. It is strange, to say the least, when people start shouting Japanese at you.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So in WWE, let's give me a second to think of an answer, and then you can pick yours. I don't want to pick the obvious one. The obvious
Sometimes
one is
you might just have to.
I think based on the three things I said about mic work, ring work, and a good character, I don't think anyone tops Roman Reigns in WWE. What is wrong with my ability to speak today? I don't think anyone is topping Roman Reigns at the minute. He's got
not in WWE.
The best character. This tribal chief persona has given us some great moments. His ring work it's never been bad. It normally falls into the normal
Oh my god, what is going on?
It normally falls into the normal WWE style of people just hitting finishing moves and signature moves and having like set moments, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And his promo work has come such a long way from him stumbling over his words, like I keep doing, while in a promo battle, promo off, whatever you want to call it, with John Cena. He's come a long way since then. So I think he's top when you consider all three things at once. You speak so that I can try and get my tongue to start working again.
Wonderful. What a lovely image that is. Well, I don't think we can look much further past what you said, to be fair. I think they are probably the two best wrestlers in the world, as of our knowledge. As we say, we're not sort of very au fait with Japanese wrestling, so it wouldn't be fair for us to say a name over there. But a couple of other honourable mentions that needs to be done, I think, has to be Jon Moxley. For everything that he did last year as the AEW champion. He was in such dark times. He was sort of a beacon of light every Wednesday night for AEW fans. As this guy that just sort of transcended everything that was going on in the world, the pandemic, like all of the social issues and everything. You go onto a Wednesday night and you can just escape, and he's such a badass. He's so good at playing his character. So I do have to look at him. And someone that I love at the minute, and is probably my favourite wrestler in the world at the minute. He might not technically be the best, but he's in the best story, I'd say, that I've seen in years and years and years, has to be Adam Page, Hangman Adam Page. He's currently being teed up to go against Kenny Omega, and at, I want to say, Revolution last year, which was February last year, Kenny Omega and Adam Page were the tag team champions. They lost, and ever since then, Adam Page has been having sort of a crisis of confidence, if you want. And it's just been building and building and building. It's just been an undertone of everything that's happened. And What Culture have been really good at picking it up, at the storyline of his crisis of confidence, and eventually leading to this point where he's going to challenge for the title. But his in-ring work's really good. His character's great. And I just love him so much. And the match with Kenny Omega, who, as we have said, is going to be, is one of the best in the world, with Page against him, I honestly can't wait to watch it. So I think those two have to have honourable mentions. And of course there's MJF as well, who's amazing on the microphone. Potentially his in-ring work doesn't back up sort of his mic skills, but he's another great one. There's a lot, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard to pick out a best wrestler in the world
because so subjective.
Yeah, because of the booking that they're put under and stuff. Like,
yeah.
If AJ Styles was sort of the main man in a company, could easily be considered as the best wrestler in the world. It's very hard to. It's very
much based on their position in their respective company at the time.
And people have personal preferences and stuff. Is what they like. Some people might think that, I don't know, James Ellsworth's the best wrestler in the world. I imagine not a lot of people. That's probably quite an extreme view. But some people might think Nia Jax is the best wrestler in the world.
You gave some honourable mentions. I just want to give a couple of my own that have stood out. One,
James Ellsworth.
No, is Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Purely for the ability to still be doing wrestling as well as he is now. He's reinvented himself time after time and could still easily be the headline for any pay-per-view for any company.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure entirely off the top of my head how old Chris Jericho is. I want to say it was like early 50s, but if it's 50, I was not too far off. Like, that is quite impressive to still be at the top of your game at that point. I mean,
and doing it week in, week out as well. He's not a part-timer.
Well, that is impressive, and that's definitely worth an honourable mention. And we kind of focused a lot on the men there, just because I think at the minute they've been in a better position story-wise and stuff like that over the last year or so. But Sasha Banks at the minute, I think women, especially in WWE, in-ring work, promo skills, character isn't necessarily the best, but there isn't a lot of great characters in WWE on the women's side anyway, so it would be a bit hard to compare that. I don't haven't seen a lot of the women's stuff from AEW outside of the Britt Baker and I can't remember who she was against. The phenomenal match that she had.
Thunder Rosa.
A few months ago. So I feel like that's another honourable mention. And before she left, well, actually before she left, Becky Lynch had something special, but that kind of went a bit weird when they started tying her in with Seth Rollins, and then obviously she left to go and have a baby. But if they can give us, like, before she became Becky Two Belts, Becky Lynch, when she comes back, she could shoot back up to the top of the list of best women's wrestlers, and could rival a lot of the men as well up there as well for being most entertaining. So
100%, yeah. There's so many names out there. Like Daniel Bryan hasn't even been mentioned. Cesaro, Seth Rollins, like there's so many. Jungle Boy. It's like the list could be endless.
If you compare the talent that is in wrestling now to when we started watching, I don't think it's ever been on average better. Like, we don't have the heights of a Rock Austin feud. Okay, but even the worst wrestlers, their in-ring stuff is normally still pretty damn good when they're given the opportunity.
I completely agree.
Like,
I do completely agree. Yeah, like you look at the undercard on when it was Rock Austin, and there was some really great people, but then for like every sort of Rock there was a Val Venus or a Rico or someone like that, and you sort of think, I guess the undercard is better, but it's just the booking at the moment, isn't it? That's sadly letting people down. Like, who would you prefer, a Val Venus or a Ricochet on your undercard? Like, it's night and day. But if only in an ideal world, exactly. That'd be an interesting match. Really would. I think we should probably leave. I think we should probably leave it there, to be honest, on that strange straight note.
Yeah, very strange note there to end on. Maybe we can do some booking stuff in a future episode of the podcast.
I can't wait to book Val Venus against Ricochet.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
If you have any ideas for a booking suggestion for us, you can let us know. Or just another kind of topic to discuss. Like, discussing weekly wrestling is fun, but every so often I think it's good to have this more kind of varied discussion about wrestling as a whole and past and present. So if you've got any ideas you'd like to hear us discuss, let us know. We'll be happy to discuss them.
HMU, I think that's what the kids are saying these days. Hit me up. Hit us up. Yeah.
I'll take your word for that.
That's right. We're down with the kids. That's right. Anyway, I think that's all for this week, folks. So thank you for listening. Damien will be over with the socials in just a moment. And remember, it's coming home.
As always, if you'd like to keep up to date with all things Figure Forecast, you can check us out on Twitter at Figure4UK, on Facebook by searching the Figure Forecast, and on YouTube by also searching the Figure Forecast. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll see you next time.